And I'm Ed, and you're on Global TV Talk Show, and I'm in San Diego. And very quick, Patrick Landers is in Dallas. He's a partner with Ernst& Young and the People Advisory Services, and has been a friend and contact for many years. Thank you. Alf is in Mexico City, and he's got a lot of titles, including Global Mobility Leader for Syngenta. Laura Gannon is CEO of Think Mobility, based in Brazil and very active in other businesses. And we'll get right back to you so you could do a better job self-introing. Stephen Howard and I have known each other a few years. He's been on many of these programs. And his theme is leadership, new thinking, new rules of leadership. Welcome again, Stephen Howard.
Thank you.
Ali Quintero is owner of Dominion Housing in Mexico City. I have stayed in her housing in the past, pre-pandemic. It's a mouthful. And I look forward to producing another live meeting in Mexico City and staying with you again. And so thank you all. Laura, tell us about Think Mobility and the other companies that you own.
Well, Think Mobility will celebrate 100 years next year. And it's a company specialized in international and national moves, household goods, immigration, DSP, relocation services. And also we are in the fine art and commercial trade fairs, logistics sector, special projects. And finally, we also have in the group port operations and customs bonded terminal operations. So it's a very traditional quality company in Brazil.
Yeah, so when you were president of the FIDI organization, how could you characterize that term in office for you?
Well, I have always loved to try to work for the industry, for the development of the mobility industry in general. So first I was in the board of the LACMA Association, Latin America and Caribbean Moving Company Association. And I was there for 10 years. And I was the first woman president of that association that is about 60 years old. Thank you. I'm proud of that. And then I went to the FIDI, which is the Federation of International Moving and Relocation Companies. And I just finished my term as president, beginning of this year. And now I'm free. I'm working just for my company.
Oh, that's great.
In a couple of committees, you know, working for technology and development for the industry and also sustainability, because these are passions I have.
It's been a long time since I've been in Rio. The last time I was in Rio, I was hosted by Ernst & Young in their offices on the top of the Coca-Cola building.
Yeah.
And that's been a long time, but I loved that experience in Rio. And
it is a nice city.
Hope to do it again. Welcome, Robert Horsley from the Fragaman Immigration Firm. Welcome.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Yeah, okay. So Robert Horsley is a longtime friend and over the years a client. And his firm, of which he's managing director, is the world's largest immigration law firm. And would you like to talk a little bit about the WorkRight technology company that you're also involved with?
Wow, yeah, obviously any chance I get. So yeah, thank you and for inviting me and happy to chat. Like you said, I've been with the Fragment firm for many years as one of the executive leaders, and have been very fortunate to work in the mobility space and kind of the industry at large, if you will. I think we see immigration as really as a talent enablement tool, if you will. More and more. WorkRight is a little bit different. WorkRight is a technology first organization we have within the firm, and that's all about making sure people have the right to work and confirming that. So on one hand, we're very much focused on making sure and helping facilitate people having the right to work wherever they are. On the other hand, we've got the technology because more and more companies are looking to validate the fact that their employees have the right to work. So it sounds very similar. It is, but this is really a technology that allows an organization to confirm that all their starters, all their transfers, all the people have the right to work and wherever they're at. It's been quite an exciting adventure. This has been something that many countries have done by regulation. For instance, in the US, it's been going since 1987, a very formalized program, very structured. It's called the I-9. It's an actual form in the US. The UK has been doing it in the last couple of years. It's known more as a kind of the right to work process in the UK, and in Australia, it's the Vivo process. And every country that I know of wants to make sure if you're working there, you have the right to work there. What this is really helping organizations confirm it, prove it, and be able to demonstrate it should a government be asking. So we're really looking at the strict liability that's created by hiring somebody from outside the organization. I think there are a lot of benefits to doing this, including, real source, truthful, source of truth information that is cataloged. So now you can lever that if it's appropriate within a company to enable talent. So again, that's technology first. I'll call that a SaaS tool or software as a service tool. So for me, it's been a lot of fun exercising all those technology muscles, which I've always liked to exercise anyway. And now putting that into a real practical solution for companies in an area where we obviously spend a lot of energy and have a lot of knowledge.
Well, Alf,
is that too many words there, Ed? That was
no,
a lot of them.
I've got it all down. I've been reading. I've got all the text captions on
Okay.
that.
Okay.
All right. So, Alf, what do you think of that technology product?
It's actually really, besides interesting, it's really needful now with the companies. Probably in the Latin America area, we are a couple of steps behind. But if you compare against Europe, that it's a country that right now business travelers are because they are this kind of let's say free frontier for European people. The business travelers or the governments are taking a deep look at business travelers and where the taxation and social security should be paid or where will be arising. Probably against Latin America, that we are, as I mentioned before, a couple of steps behind. It's going to be better for us just to be developing or working with this kind of technology, because it will allow you to know what will be the implications to have moving somebody, let's say, from Mexico to Brazil, but having that person, if we're going to leave him as a business traveler, or if we are going to we're going to realize a chargeback to that country, it will be really interesting to have this kind of a notion before doing things, because sometimes what will happen in companies is that we do things and then we review what happened. So in order to have a better understanding of the implications, to have this kind of technology will allow you to, well, to be safe of what are you doing when you are moving somebody from one place to another.
And Alf, what I would ask you to think about beyond that, right? So yes, you've moved somebody, or you're hiring somebody, or you're working with that nomadic, 20-something individual that's working all kinds of different places, right? So you feel a little more secure about that. But then think about how you could use that same information to enable things that need to happen really quickly. Now you'll know really through a verified source, right? Not just somebody self-reporting. Hey, we could have this person go do that for us legally tomorrow morning, because you have that information at your fingertips in a scalable technology. So the information it puts at your fingertips beyond compliance and how it could really drive the business is pretty compelling.
Yep, it actually really seems that.
Yeah, Patrick, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I think the prospect of having having a single system where you can go and look at that information is critical. I mean, I just know, I had a client once that was based in Quito, and so we were kind of going through tax and immigration discussions with them, and they actually, I mean, this was 8 or 10 years ago, and even then they had a system in place from the government that they could look when you're leaving the country to tell whether you had been in compliance or not. Now this was from a tax perspective, but I expect they're not too far behind when you think about your immigration status and your right to work and other things. And so the number of countries that are enabling the ability to track information about people traveling in and out of their country, and then the number of countries that are actually using that data to ensure that you are compliant, from whether it's from an immigration status or from a tax status or others, is something that creates the compelling case to have a system that you can utilize to be able to track that information.
Thank you. Let's go to Paul Falcone, Workplace Leadership Consulting. Paul and I have known each other a long time, thankfully, and a good friend. Paul, tell us about your latest book, and also if you'd like to comment on this technology aspect.
Yeah, I'll start with the latter, Ed. Robert, I'm a big fan of Fragaman. Your firm is the name in the space. I was head of international HR for Paramount Pictures, and anything that can be done automated is going to make everyone's life so much simpler, especially when you're talking about one system for multiple countries. But I think having that Fragaman brand behind it puts you well ahead of anybody in that space, because again, people want to know that it's Fragaman's name and Fragaman's identity behind that product. So the more you can build it, the more I would recommend it. We were doing business in Europe, Asia, Latin America, and sending people all over the place. And again, it is hard, and everything is so customized, and so everything is so individualized. The more you can have that kind of system, the better. So good for you. I think that's wonderful. Ed, as far as books for me, I had a new book come out in September, just a couple of months ago, called Leading Through Crisis, published by HarperCollins. I think you're seeing a lot out there now in terms of leading through disruption, leading through crisis, building the plane while flying it, whatever you want to call it, because we do live in very fragmented times. In certain ways, you can even call them schizophrenic times. Companies are hiring with the right hand, they're laying off with the left hand at the same time. It's a challenging time for a lot of people. So always happy to be here and get to build my network with everyone down in Latin America. So it's my pleasure.
Oh, that's great. Stephen Howard, I know you're tough on time today, so why don't you talk about humanity leadership?
Oh, thanks, Ed. Humanity is a word I created. I combined humanity, and harmony. And when I was interviewing people for the book and I talked about harmony in the workplace, people laughed at me and said there's no such thing. And I said, well, why can't there be? So humanity is just an approach to leadership that takes a people-centric approach. The basis premise of humanity and humanity leadership is very simple. You manage things, you manage processes, procedures, policies, projects, but you lead people. You don't manage people. And you have to change your mindset and get away from that mindset that you're a people manager. No one wakes up in the morning, wants to be managed. No one certainly goes to work saying, I can't wait to be micromanaged by my boss today. And so it's a different approach to leadership.
So I call it new rules. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, new guidelines, I would suggest, because look, I mean, I don't want to be pedantic. There are times when you do have to manage somebody. I mean, I'm not saying that you're actually in the book. I say that leaders have three hats. They're always going to be an individual contributor because there's always going to be things that they have to do, such as an employee performance review. They have to be leaders, which means they have to focus on mentoring and coaching. And there are going to be times when they have to be the manager. You have a new employee, you have to sometimes dictate what and how they do it. But unfortunately, too many people, particularly people my age, who grew up in leadership in the 90s and the 2000s, think we need to manage people, and we wear that hat too often. And so I just say put that hat on less frequently.
Ollie, what do you think of all this?
Oh, that is so interesting. I'm glad you asked me. I totally agree with that focus. You know, during difficult times, I think we all found out during pandemic that people need to be motivated in another way. I totally agree with Stephen that we cannot continue to think that we can manage people. And here in our corporation, what we had to do is we went through really tough times through the pandemic, and we didn't want to lose all our people. So you need to find a way to show them that they belong to something larger than them, and that is important to create that community. When people have that sense of belonging to an organization and belonging to a group, even within smaller groups, they tend to do a lot better in terms of performance. That's the way to get the employees engaged on what they're doing, trying to show them that there's meaning in what they're doing. And sometimes we can get a little bit lost in this because there are certain parts of our job that we really don't enjoy, making reports, maybe taking care of difficult customers. And there's always this difficult parts. And if we only look at the bad parts of what we do, we can get really unmotivated. And it's going to be hard for the teams to continue working, especially through tough times when we were not able to pay them. We were not able to, pay them enough or give them bonuses. And so how do you keep these teams working with that passion and that quality of service to the clients? Make them understand that they belong, that they're important, that what they do has a significance. And it doesn't matter if it's your job just to put on the toilet paper well folded with the little stamp. You're part of something larger and you are making it happen. And so that's the way we're working here. I'm a yoga teacher, so I'm a lot also on the spiritual side of this thing. And I always thought of myself, I have to change my hat and be like really spiritual when I'm teaching, and then take that hat away and go to the office and be really strong and really a leader and try to manage people. And one day I understood it's exactly the same. If you look at your job on the spiritual side, everything you do is very important. So how do you transmit that to your team and make them understand and really feel that they're important? It gets a whole different meaning to the job if you have an intention and if you are part of something larger. So I love that focus on just changing the switch from managing to be a real leader and to inspire and to help people understand that it doesn't matter what a tiny piece of the process they're doing, they're part of a process. And the process is getting people somewhere. And it doesn't matter if you're delivering a service, whatever it is you're doing, it applies to everything.
So Paul Falcone, one of the sub-themes of your new book is first-time managers, and so are these kids, or is it old people like me?
No, it's not kids. It depends on where they are in their careers. But when they make that transition from individual contributor to manager and leader, it could be any time, Ed. And Allie, what you said, I 100% agree with, by the way. When you have that realization that there really is no difference between those two worlds and you transition from one to the other so smoothly, makes you such a better leader. It's incredible. It's just incredible. What I've always said is beingness trumps doing this. In other words, who you are is more important than what you do when it comes to becoming someone's favorite boss or that sort of thing. And Maya Angelou, the poet, who said, people may not remember what you said and people may not remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. That's true. Keep that paradigm in mind for everything you do. It makes you a better boss, a better parent, a better child, a better sibling, friend, and the like.
Patrick, you will. Oh, okay, Laura, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to compliment that when you look at people in this integral way, where you don't only see the job they do, you look at the person and all the aspects of the person. you're able to communicate in a more human way. And when you really talk to someone, you're looking into their eyes, you're understanding what they're going through and their life. It's completely different how you can get through and get them to do things, because they find that motivation there. They feel that they're also being listened to, treated like human beings and not just part of a process. And this is very deep, and it makes such a huge difference, which we started doing this through pandemic. And right now, all the people that work here are really, really happy. And of course, it makes a difference for the clients. It makes a huge difference. People smile. People are more interested if something goes wrong. People are concerned about not only their part of the process, but the whole process, because it matters to them. So it's a whole new different approach.
Yeah, Stephen?
Yeah, I totally agree. The way I describe it, and so it's words you might think about, Ali, going forward, is people want to know what their clear line of value is. They want to know the value that they provide for the job that they're doing. Otherwise, the job becomes routine. It's uninteresting. They get demotivated and they disengage. So what is the value they provide to the team, to your team, to the department, to your customers, whether they're internal or external customers, or to the organization as a whole? And if you can explain that to someone and frequently tell them about it, the problem is you can't do it once a year. You need to keep telling, this is the value you're providing to our team, to me as your manager, your leader, to our department, to our company, to our customers. Then they will self-motivate. You can't motivate people. We can't change people. We can try and inspire them. We can cajole them. We can threaten them. But if we give them if we can explain the clear line of value that they're providing, they will self-motivate.
Patrick, when you were in India, how does all this relate to your experiences recently in India with Ernst & Young?
So, it was interesting. So, in India, and I will say, we had a big team that I worked with in India, but part of our global network we had a substantial team in Buenos Aires as well. So we had kind of I will say the connection that we had to the people, everything that was talked about earlier resonates, right? I mean, if you help people establish and understand what their purpose is for the organization, kind of what their personal purpose is, and then to the extent that the value they provide aligns with their sense of purpose, then they will self-motivate, and it truly is something that they will kind of work through. I will say with the teams that I worked with in India, I never had trouble getting someone motivated to work hard. It was always a matter of helping them kind of see what they were doing would help advance their career. So for them, that was, for a lot of the employees that I worked with in India, there was a strong sense of advancement that they wanted to be able to kind of accomplish things and move up. And if I looked at that, from a cross-cultural perspective, kind of comparing with the team we had in Argentina, the Argentina was very much about building that strong personal connection. And so I will say that the pandemic obviously hit everybody hard, but I think it hit our team in Argentina harder than it did our teams in India, because from an achievement perspective, you can still work remotely, you can still accomplish tasks, you can still achieve things. But when you are very motivated by your interpersonal relationships, when you come in the morning and you share a matcha and you go through and greet everybody as you walk through, that is a very different experience from a remote perspective. And so I think, like I said, a lot of the things that were said earlier definitely resonate. But if we look at, the experience in Latin America is a little bit different culturally than the experience in India. Both are equally valuable. Just it's interesting to see what motivates people.
Alf?
Well, I'm still stuck with Alice's comment, because her industry was one of the who received the biggest hit during pandemic, because there was nobody booking apartments, right? No, but all of those corporate apartments that we're using. So having this mindset and using yoga or using this spiritual side to keep your people, let's say, calm and just trusting that the process will happen. It's really important. And during this part of the pandemic, all of this, and it was a complete industry for global mobility. It was the rules changed. We had this remote work now talking really seriously because it was happening, and it was not necessarily from the country of the where the person was a citizen, but probably the country that person ended up being, and probably it was in the middle of going from his home country to the host country, etc. There were many cases, but in the talking about the corporate apartment, the industry, it was really hard for those 2 years. So keeping the people not only interested, but keeping the people unworried. Let's put it that way. I think it was a great challenge. So kudos to Ale to keeping all on that mind during those hard times.
My approach in the first 10 days of the pandemic, obviously, was worrying about sending people home. But I started communicating with all the offices, with all the people. We have a lot of packers, drivers, stevedores in the teams because of the type of work that we do. And I communicated with all of them on video, WhatsApp. And the first thing I said was, nobody will lose their jobs. Nobody will have pay cuts. So don't worry, I promise you. And that motivated them so much. And the other thing I wanted to comment about what you said before is that I like to share a very quick story with all of them. Is a true story from what I hear, that in the space race in the 60s, John Kennedy went to NASA for a visit, and he saw a guy brushing the floor, sweeping the floor, and he asked, good afternoon, what do you do here? And he said, I'm taking the man to the moon. So that's what we try to get everybody to feel in our organizations. Like everybody's work is a little piece of a big process. And I think it's funny, Ali, that you say you're a yoga teacher, because our general manager of the DSP division, relocation, is also a yoga teacher.
Oh,
because
that is so
I think it's so important, that connection that you can have with the customer makes a complete difference.
Yes, I agree with you. And if you teach people, all the people that work for you, you teach them this, it's just such an easy skill to apply. Just look at the other person and try to talk from heart to heart. Forget about the situation. Just try to connect. And maybe sometimes it's just looking in the eyes. Just looking in the eyes, you can see somebody's soul. So those things, I always thought, as I said at the beginning, and sorry for repeating this, but I always thought that I had to change from one hat to the other when I was working, both in my yoga studio and here at the office. And when I realized that it was the same job, it gave a completely different meaning to what I'm doing at the office, that maybe I was a little bit tired after so many years and finding it hard to get inspired at the workplace. And this completely opened my eyes and made my business grow so much during pandemic. It's unbelievable. We started with new ideas. We started partnering with people. We understood that some of the companies abroad didn't have the resources or couldn't come to look at properties in Mexico. So we started like giving a certification for quality standards according to our own standards to some other companies here in Mexico that were really struggling to get their bringing people in from abroad. So it gave us creativity. It made us understand the market better. And now that we are so confident of the quality of service that we provide, we have a good name outside. So people feel confident when they say that this property is Dominion certified. So it doesn't really matter if we manage it or not. It has our little seal. And that little seal also gives you this part of the experience. Like we teach our people to understand the client also as a person. And when someone is really upset or something there's always going to be something that goes wrong because we're not perfect. So if you have the teams that are managing these situations and have them just like breathe a little bit and react a better way with customers, it's also a different way to a different approach with the clients also.
So, Ali, where are your units? If I remember right, Polanco or Santa Fe, and in the downtown.
Yes, we have Polanco right by the park, and also in Condesa, also in Avenida Mexico, in front of a park. It's called Casa Malí. And we recently opened this year a new property in Santa Fe, which is really, really nice. And we, as I was saying, we started partnering with some other companies that do the same all over Mexico. So now we have a larger network, and all the cities that are being very important right now because of the nearshoring and how the market is changing. We now have product to offer that has our certification all over Mexico. And maybe this wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the pressure of the pandemic, you know? So, and we found a way to keep the people involved, and we used to connect and meditate together in the mornings. And, you know, I was a little bit scared of doing that at the beginning because people always think that I'm the hippie one at the office. And I was a little bit scared to do it. And after a while, I mean, everybody is just a lot more connected and a lot more engaged, and they really feel part of the team. And we've had people stay longer, even in the positions that used to change a lot. People are finding an atmosphere and a happy place to work because we're looking at people directly from the heart to the heart, and that's very different of what we were doing before.
Well, it sounds like humany. So, Robert, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to be maybe a little provocative. And I think we're talking about a great subject, right? And that is connecting people to value, having them value what they're doing more, because that is more motivating. But I think if we were really telling ourselves that we collectively, I'm not saying this group, but as an industry, as a human resources function, have not necessarily done a great job of allowing people to understand their value in the organization. I love the NASA story, by the way, because that is the pure, the trickle down. I hesitate to use that phraseology, but I just did. Of people understanding how they're contributing. And I think there's been so much focus on KPIs and how to be successful in the little bit that or the lot of it that you're contributing, that you're ultra focused on that and not necessarily focused on how that aligns with the larger organization's goals. And I think I would invite people to really tie anything that they're doing, and managers to help people understand exactly where they fit into an organization's defined, articulated goals going forward. Right? In the NASA example, that's a perfect one, right? Well, the more you keep this space, clean and comfortable and warm, the better that people are going to perform to be able to do this, that, and that to get somebody to move, right? In the Apple example, the more people are contributing to make the original iPhone, or not to make this about Apple, or the original the App Store, a reality. Think about the economies that changed, and even down to us helping somebody getting a visa to get somewhere to then contribute in that ecosystem really changed lives and communities and economies. But did people feel like what they were doing were part of that? I would submit no, not to the extent they could. So I think, as we get more disconnected from the office, which I don't think is a bad thing, the more it is incumbent upon all of us to be better storytellers and better connectors of dots. So let and describe people, what are you doing that is contributing to the change of somebody's life, or the actual effectuation of some strategy or goal. And I think that's different than KPIs. KPIs are great measurements. I think we need to have them. I think we need to do it to hold people accountable, especially if they're not going to be in the office where you can see them. But where you fit into the ultimate delivery of value is so key. I'm sure I say provocatively that we don't do a great job at this. I'm sure some people do it better than others. But I think it should be a real emphasis going forward.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Robert.
Robert, I just to maybe add, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that when you look at one of the things we talk about, I mean, at Ernst & Young, we do a lot of compliance, right? We do, we do tax, we do immigration, we do a lot of things that people view as compliance. And when you're a staff level person, a lot of times that means putting data on a form. And so it's, how do you connect that to the life-changing experience that somebody's going to go through from a global mobility perspective? Because truly, somebody that's moving their family halfway across the world is going to go through a life-changing experience. A lot of cases, they may be changing the communities that they're serving. I've done work with companies that came in and built schools and did other things that truly changed the trajectory of the people, the lives of the people that they interacted with. And so, it's helping everybody that's a part of that understand, again, going back to the NASA story, helping everybody understand what they're doing to enable that life-changing experience is absolutely critical in getting people kind of inspired to move forward. So
right, we're told that the current generation's impact is one of their biggest motivators, right? What impact am I having? Where does the company I work for play in changing how the world works? And I'd say it's in our hands already. And it's just the better job we can do of allowing somebody to understand the impact that they're having at whatever level they play, and letting them feel it. I think somebody was saying that from the beginning, not just be told it, not just be measured it, but really feel it. Well, I think it was you, Patrick, that just said, the more you get people to feel things, the more you can motivate them. By definition, you're probably hiring people that understand their job, that are good at doing their job. Now, how are you having them really feel it to ultimately connect to something that when they started their job didn't even know it was possible?
Paul Falcone.
Yeah, Ed, you saw my eyes were okay. So the funny thing, everyone, is when I was younger in my career, we called them soft skills. And when I would say I'm doing soft skills training, they'd be like, no, we don't need it. Okay, now they call it emotional intelligence. It's the same thing, but basically in all of these CEO surveys, they're basically saying they want emotional intelligence in their key leaders. And the reason is it's almost like making lemonade out of the lemons. We're coming out of COVID, a pandemic we haven't seen in 100 years. It is forcing us to reinvent things. On the one hand, people all of a sudden are our greatest resource. I know we've said that for decades. It didn't mean much, but all of a sudden people realize without the human beings, you can't keep the business going. And in light of the talent scarcity we've been facing, there's that new appreciation. The second thing is what they're looking for is leaders who know how to build relationships. When you're in a remote environment, it is much tougher to build relationships. You don't see people in the break room. So it has to be more purposeful, more deliberate, more strategic in terms of how you're building this rhythm of communication and building trust. So truthfully, I think this is all going to strengthen us over time. And to your point, Robert, we haven't done great at it. And Ali, you bring up a great point. Look, there's still room for improvement. We're not there anywhere near there yet, but our level of appreciation for it has skyrocketed. And we have the proof in the CEO surveys. Now's the time to reinvent. Stephen, to your point, what Humany is all about, and what many of my books have always been about, is how to become someone's favorite boss, how to build that relationship of trust. Because once you have that, they are not going to leave for 20% to go elsewhere because they take on too much risk. That person may be mean, they may throw chairs, they may spit fire. I don't want to work for Godzilla. I like working for Paul Falcone.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the concept behind it. And that is a new generational movement, so to speak, this post-COVID generational world. This is where it's come to, but it's a long time in coming, and I'm happy it's here.
I feel that, Paul, one of your next books is going to be 101 Ways to Do Better as a Boss.
Yeah, no kidding. In a lot of ways, Ed, you're right. We have to reinvent this concept. And even what we talked about earlier, leadership versus management, inspiring versus telling. I mean, this is the shift. And if you're smart, you're reading the tea leaves. Gen Y, Gen Z, the 45 and under crowd, the 25 and under crowd are the most studied generational cohorts in world history. We know everything about them. They want to make the world a better place. As we've said, that's their motivator. What does that mean in terms of corporate social responsibility and environmentalism? And what does that mean in terms of being a company that's ethical? We're doing meaningful work, working for a management team that cares about them personally. These are realistic. These are things that are within our control. We can do that. We can get there. We just need to focus on it a little bit more and get ourselves over the finish line.
So, Paul,
and we can learn so much from them. We can learn so much if we open up. We learn from these young people so very much.
Yeah.
And it's lovely.
Yeah. Paul, are you working on this thing called agility? How to be agile at work?
I write about it a lot, Ed. It's a key issue in today's dynamic. So
how do you be agile?
You're going to laugh. Keep it very simple. Laura, what you were saying before, it's all about the trust. When you feel like your boss has your back, when you feel like you're working for the best boss you've ever had, it doesn't matter what they throw your way. Look what we just came through in COVID. The rules seem to change by the day, sometimes within the day, in terms of all these different aspects of work and who can come home and who could work on site. CEOs now have productivity paranoia. They want people back in the office where they can see them. But Gen Y and Gen Z have been looking for work-life family balance for a long time preceding the pandemic. So now we're at a situation where there's a little bit of a crossroads, but as I say, we're building the plane while we're flying it. As long as we are doing this with open communication, as long as we are doing this with the intention of paying things forward, right, of helping build future leaders, people will feel that, and people don't mind being changed as long as they're part of it, as opposed to change being forced on them. That they don't respond well to. So the smarter leader is going to get out ahead of this and bring them along with them and make them part of that solution.
Patrick, EY is embarking on a revisioning, repurposing, not only real estate, but repurposing the use of real estate because of people not being in the office so much, but also about repositioning talent mobility and the whole global talent development thing, with mobility being a part of that to retain talent. Could you take it from there, because I'm stumbling around?
I will say just one of the areas, and again, it was actually a study that we did with Oxford University, where they actually evaluated the success of transformation based on a number of factors. And what they came out with was that when you go through a transformation, whether that's coming out of the pandemic or just something as simple as changing over the approach that you're taking at your organization, they found that you were 2.6 times more likely to be successful in your transformation if you put humans at the center. So if you focused on the people issues first as the primary item, and then you looked at all the other aspects of it, you're more likely to be successful. And so kind of coming back to the question that you were asking, we are absolutely embarking on, a true transformation of our global business at EY. We just elected a new chairman. We have a new chairman, the first female lead for a Big Four firm ever. And so super excited to kind of move forward under her leadership. But part of what we are expecting is that across the organization, we are going to be transforming from a 5-day in the office, everybody at a desk and kind of a true apprenticeship model to one where you keep that apprenticeship model where you allow people to work together, but really more dynamic with teams leading that initiative and looking at how you approach that in terms of when you're in the office or when you're at a client site. It really is a kind of a crossroads of the business that we're seeing.
I want to just do a bit of a plug here. Patrick, you've been so helpful to me over the years, and particularly now, introducing me around. And EY is hosting our New York conference this week, November 30, in their global center in Hoboken. And we've got corporate people coming and a variety of services. And Patrick, I invite you to join that conversation. Andrew Walker will be involved, as well as Amit and Heather. And I don't have their customer list yet, but we're going to have a meeting on that soon. So that is November 30. And we might be doing other things if it all goes well. So thank you. Robert, I welcome you to join us in the New York telecast as well, if you want. Stephen Howard is going to be our closing speaker of that, as well as in the London meeting coming up on December 7 at HSBC at Canary Wharf. So all this is very, very exciting going into 24. I feel personally ignited and looking forward to a very positive launch. Alf, I welcome you to talk to us more about Syngenta.
Well, Syngenta, it's an agro-technology company. It actually develops in two main things. One, it's the nest of seeds, and the second one is to have a better crop protection. All what that we have been taking into consideration, the environmental impact of having this crop protection and having better seeds for a better future for humanity, right? Because the first thing that we have to take into consideration is that with all this growth of the population, there should be, or we need to have enough food for everyone. So those are the two main goals that Syngenta has as a company, and the mobility programs are based on that. The impact that the people that is moving around the globe. For me, the Latin America region has to be or having a better experience or life experience for all the people, and having developed this environmental friendly better seeds and better protection of the crops. And now that what you were mentioning, and something that it's important here, and all of the companies, it's now this employee experience, right? And in global mobility is something that we've been living for the last couple of years. And sometimes even with all this, let's say, cost consciousness that we have with all the moves, but still what we have on the center is this employee experience of the person that we're moving. And that's something that, and is just going to be concatenated with what everybody's been talking about. It's we're moving people to have this impact, and what we don't want is to have the person to be thinking about the issues that the family they might have, or getting to used to another culture, another timing, another schools, all of this area, and they can focus on what they're doing and doing it, as Ali mentioned, happily. And this is the point that we I won't say it's a struggle, because it's something that we really enjoy, but it's having the employee on the center through the employee experience. And we require, as a global mobility, as everyone who is involved here, we need all hands on deck, vendors, the global mobility teams, HR teams, and even the same to have the better experience for the assignee and or the employee and their families.
So, Stephen, how is your keynote business going?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks for asking. It's doing a lot of virtual talks at this time of the year, end of the year, but a lot of face-to-face. Got a couple things booked for next year. So it's interesting. The speaking, I should say the meetings industry is rebounding, not the speaking industry. The meetings industry is rebounding. And what's really nice for me is that the meeting planners and the conference organizers, they now want people with content, people like Paul or myself or others who, have written stuff, can speak what we, authentically believe. They don't want the rah, let's get the audience up, everyone turn to each other and shake hands and hug each other and all that kind of stuff, which, was very valid, was very valuable at the time. I think they're looking for higher quality content these days. So it puts myself and people like Paul in a good position for the speaking business.
Interesting. Robert, what do you think is going to happen with immigration in the first half of the year? Do you think anything will change?
What's going to happen with immigration? Well, I think, interestingly, over the last, especially here in the U.S., we've seen some government action and people saying, I think this is actually a really good perspective. A lot of people in the mobility space saying, hey, this is getting tougher and tougher, right? This is getting, wow, there's so many more restrictions. And I don't think that's just in the US, but everywhere. And why are we doing this? It's so tough, it costs us money and it does this. And almost like, should we take another look at this? Only to have the CEO and the C-suite say, what are you guys talking about? We need this talent. We need talent more than ever. There is a talent shortage of key minds and skills. So I think I stepped back a few weeks ago and said, wow, that is just such a good, contextual viewpoint, that this isn't just a process. This isn't just an application, that the real people with real skills, with real need from a corporate perspective, that this is something that's helping drive businesses. And sometimes as an industry, we see ourselves too much as the gatekeepers to that. And I think it's a good recognition of just how important immigration is as a strategy to the advancement of our economies as a key driver. So I don't know if that was what you were soliciting. What do I think about volumes and the like? I think, I sit in Silicon Valley. Not today. I happen to be in Nashville, but I live most of the week in the Silicon Valley, and I can see that a lot of the technology companies have kind of turned the corner. Where they, through the pandemic, did a lot of hiring, almost to make up for the fact that how do we deal with this new normal of people not working more remotely. They were going to solve that, by just hiring people to do more things, and now they've kind of regrouped. And it's how do we automate? How do we scale? It's what they do all day, every day anyway. So how are they going to apply that to themselves? I think they're reorganized, refocused, and now they're really putting into place, their growth strategies. I think to a certain extent, Wall Street called for, cost controls. That led to re-looking at efficiencies. That led to a lot of restructuring, but you can only you can't cut yourself to growth. And then we're now into a time where people are reinvesting and refocused. It's a really healthy, it's very painful, but it's really healthy, as we've seen in the past, to inspire growth and to inspire innovation. So again, a lot of words are coming around just to saying I'm really optimistic on where we're going. I think the need for talent has never been, and talent where the skills are constantly changing, and driving. I think the other incredible thing to have watched over the last 2 weeks was what happened with OpenAI, right? What happened with Sam Altman, another great innovator. Most of you know that he was, one of the drivers to Y Combinator, which just launched so many companies before his involvement with OpenAI. But what did that, if you really pull back, and I don't think we've seen all the lessons that came from that. But one, corporate governance. I think it was actually a good thing that all this happened. It said to the board, hey, we've got power, we've got an obligation. Where are the gaps in that, right? Because obviously there was a lot of miscommunication in a lot of places, but corporate governance stood up and said, we need to take action. Rightly or wrongly, they stood up. And there's also where the power of the employees, the power of the teams said, hey, we're leaving if our leader leaves. When's the last time you saw that, right? And then the investor saying, this group is so important to us that we're going to put them out of harm's way while we figure all this out. 3 real-time dynamics going on within what happened in the last 2 weeks. People trying to protect the world, if you will, if that's somewhat the narrative why the board took action. people trying to then, save their leader who they were marching, for, and then an investor saying, hey, we don't want this to all fall apart. We're going to protect that innovation by gathering these people up and making sure they knew they had a place to go. Nothing that I've ever seen. I think the story's left to be told. There's a lot we probably don't know, but wow, what a thing to witness. It was fascinating. Anyways, again,
Robert,
off
that's an
topic,
excellent,
but something I was thinking
not
about.
right on topic, and it's an excellent way for me to introduce Melissa Poots and Dr. Harvey, who will be joining us in just a second. Talk about the future. Melissa is an AI expert, and welcome again, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Edwin. Nice to meet everyone.
Okay, everyone, this is Melissa, and Dr. Harvey Castro is going to join us right now. And so this is now going to talk, we're now going to have a conversation. Hello, Dr. Harvey, welcome. And it's all about AI now, okay? So please self-intro yourself, Melissa, and also Dr. Harvey, because you do a better job than I will. Melissa.
My name is Melissa Putz. I'm an artificial intelligence technical delivery manager. I've been working with artificial intelligence for a few years now on different software projects. And I'm also an artificial intelligence inventor. I won Deloitte's Round 1 Innovation Challenge for artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, interactive AI chatbots, and I invented 47 different product ideas.
Wow. That is super cool. Dr. Harvey, please intro yourself. You're an MBA and a doctor. How do you find time for doing all this stuff?
Word, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm a ER doctor, MBA. Big picture, I love AI. I love technology. I've been blessed to be able to say that I'm the first person to write a book on ChatGPT and healthcare. I wrote it last year. And I'm blessed to be able to say that I'm the first person ever to write the first it's called IV Meds app in the world. This was when the first iPhone came out. So big picture, I love technology. I love putting all of these things together, where it's AI, healthcare, entrepreneurship, business. So that's the skinny on me.
No, that's great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. So let's talk about med tech and using AI in medicine. It's here, right? It's not coming. It's already here.
Yeah. So big picture, just turn up the volume on this thing. The way I see it is, I see life in the healthcare world as a bell curve. Physicians in general are going to be very resistant to change in general. I'm over, simplifying it. I feel like some of the doctors, they don't like change, and it's always been used to saying, hey, I'm the doctor, I know what's best. But unfortunately or fortunately, we know that there's technology that can help supplement us to make us a better doctor. So big picture, as far as ChatGPT and all these technologies, everybody's like, oh, it hallucinates, it's not safe. But my thing is, it's doctor plus AI is better than just doctor alone, and that doctor is better than just AI alone. And in that pecking order, I feel like as we move forward, we know that Microsoft is already working with OpenAI, obviously, but they're also working with Epic, which is an electronic medical record, which we already know that using these technologies are going to help. Simple case in point, we already seen products out there that help generalize information. For example, if one of you guys, big picture, came to see me, and let's just say you had a large medical file that I had to go through every single piece, how nice would it be if it gave me all the summaries of your last CAT scans and MRIs, and simplified all those, like that 400-page document to 10 pages. Then at that point, I could probably give you a better service quicker. I'm an ER doc, so I don't have the luxury of, an hour of time. I literally have to make decisions in seconds. So it's nice to have that information.
Yeah.
Dr. Harvey, how nice would it be to be able to voice dictate your summary of the patient and spit out a patient summary to your patient in minutes, and also a summary of any type of prescriptions that you also handed out within minutes with patient information.
Yeah, and that's the beauty, having this technology allows me to give better service for my patients and vice versa. And the other part of this, like you said, is just the communication part. A lot of doctors don't do a really good job explaining things, and a lot of patients won't correct the doctor and say, "Look, I didn't understand a lick of what you just said." And then instead, being able to use ChatGPT to say, "You know what? Break it down to a person that maybe has zero healthcare experience, and in layman's terms." And unfortunately, we only get about 13 minutes per patient, and so I think generative AI would be a great tool to be able to say, here's a great discharge instruction. In fact, taking it to the next step, putting on some 3D, some of these new meta glasses to be able to say, okay, here's your heart, here's diabetes. This is how this medicine works. This is why I get on you about your meds. Another example that I give real quick and simple, everybody's heard of Instacart. What if you were diabetic and you were seeing me and I have to give you a keto diet and you're like, keto who? Well, I can use ChatGPT, give me all the ingredients, give me down to your allergies, what you like and don't like, and give you a meal plan. And I could do that within seconds. And then the best part is I could plug that into your Instacart. And now by the time you get home from seeing me, the groceries are waiting for you. And these are the right way that you should be eating. Just a simple idea, but something that every doctor could do today.
So I want to introduce Patrick Landers. He has to jump off in just a minute. Patrick is a partner with Ernst & Young, and Melissa is employed now by Deloitte Technology. So I wanted to make sure you guys meet and use the chat if you want to exchange information. So EY has a tech unit, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, and I mean AI is. I mean, look, I think we're all what we're seeing with Dr. Castro as well as with all of the discussions on this call. I mean, AI is going to transform a lot of what we do in the business or in our kind of day jobs, and so that's it's a clear part of what we're looking at. Even on things like global mobility and looking at how AI can help supplement some of the destination services and the connections that you make when you're traveling to different locations and things. It's a tremendous opportunity, I think, that we all see with AI. Yeah.
Okay, so I know you're not going to play your guitar today, Melissa, but someday I would like you to come on my show and play a couple of songs.
We may have to make up a Chat GPT song to play my guitar on.
That's great. So tell us about your experience in inventing, taking old ways of doing things and making it work with AI.
That's what I love to do. So I like to start out with a problem because there's going to be a solution or several solutions. So basically with AI, I look at the problems as our current processes. And I try to figure out from start to finish how we can use automation, artificial intelligence, or any of the other machine learning technologies to improve the process to save time and save money. And you can basically put that over healthcare, you can put that over finances, you can put it over any type of processes that you have that are manual now, and you can automate them.
Fascinating. Dr. Harvey and Melissa will be participating in our New York meeting, which is going to be at EY and virtually, and also in London, which again is going to be December 7, facilitated and hosted by the bank HSBC. I'm certainly grateful for that. And so, Melissa, you also worked in real estate development, right, as well as in hospital technology.
Yes, I've managed about 150 projects to build hospitals all over the US and clinics and youth schools. And then I've also worked on ITS office build out projects to build out skyscrapers for Deloitte. Basically a lot of tech experience, but I dibble dabble in all kinds of stuff.
Interesting. Okay, so please use the chat to introduce yourselves behind the scenes here, because that's part of your ROI for coming on Global TV Talk Show. Paul Falcone, just so you know, is an author of 16 books, I believe, and 17 is coming out. And they all have numbers. It's like 101 ways of firing someone or what?
No, but I understand the thought, Ed. You're right. There are a lot of numbers in my books.
So would you use AI and GBT in your work?
Oh yeah, from an HR standpoint, again, everyone, I transitioned out of HR last summer of 22, but I had 3 decades of doing HR. And when you think of the implications for recruiting and onboarding and training and development and benefits open enrollment and all of these different things, it is amazing where it's going. Even performance management, everything about it is so exciting. There really is a lot to look forward to in that space. So.
Thank you, Paul. Robert.
Oh, I'm on mute. So I had a question for, I think, Dr. Harvey.
Yeah.
So you mentioned ChatGPT, right, and healthcare, and you know, how would you? And I think I'm, by the way, huge fan of ChatGPT, of the whole generative AI space and where it's going. So, but on as much as I'm a fan, I'm also, you know, have a little bit of a guardrail around me. But you know, I think I've looked myself up on ChatGPT and tell me more about this guy, and it gets it all wrong. But man, it sounded great, right? So kind of the phantom effect of Chat. So I think about that in the healthcare space, right? How do you protect the knowledge base, especially in the generative area, right? So how do you learning and getting a good answer and getting a bad answer? But you know, there's a, how do I want to say this? There's a devious side to the world as well.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
That is, you know, how are we going to protect against people that will take this as patently the thing that they need to do, the advice that they're getting, and it's because it's going to sound exact perfect. How do you protect against that?
No, I love what
It's
you
probably
said.
a layup question for you.
No, I love it. These are obviously honestly, this is why I wrote the book last year. I saw it and I thought, man, people can get hurt or even die if they trust this. And I'm more worried in outside the United States because to some degree, people in the United States still have to see a doctor to get a prescription, and that's just part of it. But outside the United States, you can walk to any pharmacy and say, hey, I need this drug because ChatGPT told me I have XYZ. And not even discussing the emotional trauma of being told the wrong diagnosis, or maybe you're going to die because you have cancer because that's what ChatGPT said. And you're right. It sounds so convincing. And so my angle to this is twofold. There's 2 sides of this: on the doctors making the mistake and on the patients. On the doctors, I'm not too worried because at the end of the day, they have the ultimate clinical decision, just like ordering a CAT scan, looking at the stethoscope, looking at labs. They need to say, yeah, this is right, this is wrong, this is bogus. And you have that clinical gestalt and years of experience that tells you, yeah, this is wrong. But on the patient side, they don't have that healthcare IQ. So I've been advocating to my doctors and hospital administrators that we need literally to have signs up in our office and time with our patients to say, hey, here's the good about ChatGPT, but here's the bad and ugly. And then I'm pushing for healthcare companies to come out with kind of like endorsing, like, you know, people use Dr. Google. Well, the problem with Dr. Google is, you know, it's BS or not. And, you know, there's blogs, but with ChatGPT, to your point, it's so convincing. And so I'm telling hospitals, we need to have signs up saying, hey, let's have a talk about ChatGPT or GPTs out there. Because, you know, Bard is around the block. That's doing a good job or a better job soon with when they release Google Gemini. But my point is this: to answer your question, it's all about education, doctors to do it. You yourself, knowing this, need to be doing it as well to tell patients, because the sad part is I feel like 90% of America really doesn't know even how, you know, really what ChatGPT is. And the minute they see it and see an output, they're like, holy cow, this is great. I don't need a doctor anymore. This is my doc. On the indigent side, we know that healthcare is so expensive that there's going to be a population that can't afford healthcare, and this will be it. And so we need to make sure that we're pushing this agenda and saying, hey, be careful.
Thank you. Paul?
And along the same lines, just as a follow-up to what I said about human resources, we somehow have to make sure that the data is ethically acquired, that it is, you know, bias-free. There is going to be a whole new field of employment law where plaintiff lawyers are going to be looking at, you know, adverse consequences, disparate impact. You didn't hire this person, but you did hire that person. They're going to challenge the AI data set that you have set up, and companies are going to have to defend that. So to your point, Robert, it's not all positive. There's going to be a negative side to this too, and it's just going to be more business. So we have to be prepared for it from both sides, good and bad.
I can give you an example of a negative side of AI that has already happened with HR, sort of exactly like what you're saying, a big tech company who, you know, in the past has hired 85% male. They wanted to somewhat try to diversify their hiring and automate the process. And what they did is they thought they would just look at the skills on resumes and the experience on the resumes, and they made a large language model of all of their resumes from all of their employees that they've hired over the last 10, 20 years. And then their AI system learned from those mainly male resumes. And then all of the new employees that were going to be hired, they were mostly male. And it was because the computer learned that that company liked to hire males and then automated the process of hiring more males. So if you don't have a lot of diversity in your engineers who are creating AI, or your boards who are hiring everybody else, and if you, like you say, if you aren't making sure that you have clean data that is as bias-free as you can get it, and if it's not bias-free, you need to create an algorithm to make sure you are now taking into account bias and diversity. And there's a way to fix that, but we, you know, if you teach it what we've always done, it's going to do what it's always done.
Absolutely. Okay, I've got another question, Ed. So I think this is to Harvey as well. Tell me about Firefly's note taker and Harvey's autopilot.
Oh, how funny.
Are you giving you all the takeaways from this?
Yeah, you know, this is the next phase, you know. Pretty soon, I would think this time next year, we'll all have our own AI, and you could decide to come or not, or participate. The skinny is it's taking notes. You can kick it, yeah, you can kick it out if you don't want to. Zoom right now has this cool AI companion, so you can activate that, where if, let's say, I was 10 minutes late to this meeting, I can be like, okay, catch me up, was my name mentioned, and it'll tell me, and it's really nice. Windows 11, or is it 12? Sorry, Windows 12, the next Windows, is going to incorporate ChatGPT in this. So Teams will they're already working on it for the Enterprise Edition, or they already have it rather. But fast forward, all of us, if you have a Windows computer, it'll be there. To take it to the next level, if this conversation, there was some key points that everybody said that I wanted to extract, I could literally take it. It'll automatically go into PowerPoint, make a nice presentation, and then I could take that and say, okay, who was on this call? And it could automatically send an email copy of my PowerPoint, all done through Windows iOS, where I had nothing to do other than just click a couple of buttons. And then to take it to another level, say a year from now, I want to reflect on this conversation from everybody on this call. I could say, hey, what did Paul say? Or, you know, what did Edwin say? And then it would tell me, what a nice way of, you know, using information.
Sounds so positive. Yeah, that's great. Well, let's hope it does. Robert?
No. I was just thumbs up. I think it's great.
Yeah. So, Laura, will AI be used in the moving business?
Well, I use it already, but very little, because I don't know very much. I'm here all years to try to learn from Harvey and Melissa. But yeah, definitely. There's a lot in the process that can be done that is automatic, and it can improve the efficiency of the processes very, very much. But I'm talking about the very low level utilization of AI, because this is a new world that amazes me.
So could AI be used in the survey, in the household goods?
It is already.
Okay, it is?
It is already. There are some platforms.
Yeah.
It is great. It is great. It works very well. We use it. There's a company, I think there are 2 companies only already using AI for the virtual survey. It works perfectly well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sell the business like a person talking to you. So
yeah,
there's a give and take, huh? The
Yeah,
personal touch is always important.
so when a household goods company is doing a survey of what's going to be shipped, and then AI could probably come up with how much space is needed on the truck or how to
No,
pack it.
yes, I mean, it comes up with a volume, quantity of items, the list of items. It is amazing. The video recognizes everything, sizes, what a table, a chair. It is, yeah, there are many things that can be very, very useful, but you know, 100% of the process, no. The human touch is essential. It will always be essential.
So Dr. Harvey, I've got a medical question, just using me as a topic for a minute. About 2 weeks ago, I was contacted by my primary to show up for a test, a bone density scan, X-ray of my hips and knees and ankles, things like that, because I'm old and and hopefully getting older, but they thought that I might be in danger of falling down and breaking apart or something. So they put me through this X-ray machine. It took around 5 minutes, and then a few days later, I get a message from my primary's PA, and it says that you're amazing. You have the bone structure of a 25-year-old. And
Nice.
so that means that I better be really careful now because maybe that's not right. Maybe they made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, not to get into the weeds, but they do testing on these algorithms to make sure that they're accurate. The FDA makes sure that they're accurate. With that said, there's always room for error for anything, but the chances are what they're doing, probably has a good accuracy. Plus, I would imagine that they're probably doing some blood tests and looking at you and then putting it all together and saying, yeah, this is correct. But to your point, can it be wrong? Yeah, there's probably a 1% chance that it's wrong. But then it's the doctor at the end of the day that pulls that trigger that says, maybe let me check some more. Maybe this is incorrect. I've had some blood work that I'm like, oh yeah, you would think the person's maybe having a heart attack based on this blood work, but this blood work's 20 years antiquated. But I'm more looking for this other blood test. And if that one says it's negative, that person's not having a heart attack. And so just kind of giving you that example.
Thank you very much. Okay, Melissa. So I thank you so much for supporting what I'm doing and bringing Dr. Harvey along. That is super cool. And we'll see you at the New York event virtually.
Yes, nice to
Awesome.
see you.
Yeah,
Nice to
great.
talk to you all again.
Thank
Same
you.
here.
So
Thank
many
you.
of us will be back together again for New York and also in London, which is December 7th. I also want to just do another look ahead. On January 18, I'll be doing my first live meeting in Washington Beltway area in 4 years. And our keynoter is going to be Mark Bacacci, who's head of mobility for Hilton International. And we're building that program now. And I invite you guys to all join us again, of course, or even show up in Washington.
Wonderful.
And then we're going to do an LA meeting, Paul. I'd like to do it with you and Kim and others in late January.
That sounds wonderful. Yep.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So
Same here.
as for a venue, I'll be talking to some of the others about hosting. I need a host partner to be involved to facilitate that kind of a thing. Makes it so much easier. So thank you again, Laura, for
Thank you.
coming and talking. And please know that we want to do LatAm, Global LatAm 7, and I want you to come back.
Okay.
And perhaps you can invite a couple of others from Latin America to join us as we expand this.
Sure.
Alf, I always welcome you back. Stephen,
Thank you.
someday we're going to do this meeting in Mexico City, and Ali will probably want to host me in her condos there. And I don't know which one to do, though. Should it be Palenque? Or should it be Santa Fe, or should it be downtown?
Yeah, downtown usually works, Reforma, but that's where most people are. Santa Fe's nicer, less traffic.
Yeah, the last time I produced a live meeting in Mexico City was inside Ernst and Young in Polanco, which is in a beautiful area.
Yeah, Polanco's gorgeous.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, well, thank you all for being on Global TV Talk Show. I will send you all a copy of this program probably tonight. If all
Aren't we
goes.
going to get the Chat GPT transcript as well, Ed?
I don't know anything about it. I've learned so much today. So
Together with our checkup, with our annual checkup.
oh yeah,
right.
and but that's private, you know. Okay, ciao everybody. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.